Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is the Upper Tier Podcast, the football podcast we bring you each and every day. It is a Shankly Sessions again, coming at us thick and fast at the moment, these games, especially on the back of a fantastic result against Frankfurt. But if you could subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification button and drop a like on the video, would be really helpful for us and to give us all the support that we need. But yeah, we're here with a Brentford preview, and this is again another pressurised interesting game. All games are pressure, but this is extreme pressure here at the moment now, because has Slot found the recipe, or are things going to change back again? Will he stay brave in the decisions that he made on Wednesday, or was it just purely rotation? Lots to really talk about. We start with obviously the presser, and the presser is an interesting one for me, because I think we spend too much time talking about other teams, and we should spend more time talking about our own team. Although most managers in the Premier League are at a very elite level and stuff like that, and the setups and the backroom staff and all that, there's not a lot you can hide in terms about what your frailties are if you're not playing well. And you have people coming out going, "Oh, we don't want Slot talking about this, what our frailties are, giving people the blueprint and stuff like that." You'd want to be a very basic low-level manager not to see what the issues are at Liverpool in terms of how teams are playing against us and stuff like that. But I think it was taken out of context a little bit in terms of, I don't think he was throwing shade at the other teams for the way that they played. Now, we know, okay, he's had a little bit of selective memory in terms of chances that they created and focusing on chances that we created, because we know, especially in the Palace game, they could have been 3-4-0 up at half time. But I think context is key here, and it might be just the language thing, or sometimes that Dutch kind of thing where it comes across as a bit of an arrogance and stuff like that. We've seen it with Ten Hag, we've seen it with Van Gaal back in the day and stuff like that. No, I don't think that's the case. I think that's just, it's a body language thing and stuff like that. And even when he turned around about Newcastle being a smaller club or a small club and stuff like that, no, I don't think he was doing it in a way to throw shade at Newcastle. I think he was actually stating facts, and the facts are Newcastle is a smaller club than Liverpool. But I think maybe the wording or the way it comes across, or the context in which it's used, aggravates people, including our own fans. So let's not get this twisted. This wasn't a Newcastle thing. This wasn't a United thing where he was talking about low block and low, high balls, long balls and all that kind of stuff. It aggravated us as fans nearly as much as it aggravated rivals. So don't get that twisted. But I think what happens is, when things aren't going right and you're trying to find a formula and you're trying to somewhat protect your own players, and we've seen with Arne, he doesn't necessarily go out there to protect players and stuff like that. He gives generally valid reasons why things just aren't happening and stuff like that. But I think in this case, it kind of came across as if he was trying to dictate the teams how they should play and all that kind of stuff. And I don't think that's what was meant by it at all. You know what I mean? So, kind of indifferent on the presser. Obviously, we got the news Frimpong out with the hamstrings, probably going to be out for 4 to 5 weeks, I'd imagine. Isaac with a groinal issue. I'd be very concerned if he plays tonight. I think when you mess around with things like a groin thing, you can lose a player for a long time. You need to be so careful with that, and I wouldn't necessarily be risking it. Obviously, Leone out, obviously with the ACL, the poor young lad and stuff like that, so hopefully he's healing up and getting better. And Alisson obviously out as well. So there's a number of challenges there for us, But how are we feeling at the moment? How are we feeling in terms of the lineup? How did we feel about the Frankfurt game? Now, context is key on these things as well, because you'll often find that teams sometimes play a bit better when they get out of the cauldron and the bubble of the Premier League and they start playing away in Europe and stuff like that. They can get away from the intense scrutiny and the microscopic attention to detail that you get in the Premier League from the British media and the broadcasting over there and stuff like that, where they literally look at the fucking laces on your boots and stuff, I think when it's in Europe, it's a bit more top level and stuff like that, and because there's so many big teams playing and stuff like that, there's less individual scrutiny. It's more a kind of summarisation and stuff like that, so you can be a little bit more relaxed going into it. Now, obviously with Frankfurt as well, We know Frankfurt very vulnerable at the back this season, shipping goals for fun. If you look at their Champions League, 3-5-1s, one they won, two they lost. So shipping goals for fun. And where you get a problem is similar to our own conundrum with Frankfurt as well. If your players up front are not doing the business and not scoring the goals, and that vulnerability is still at the back, you've got a problem, because the recipe is imbalanced and the cake ain't going to look too good. And that's a real problem at the moment for us at Liverpool as well. If we're taking those chances, you know, you're nearly in a kind of a rhythm, those old 4-3s against Newcastle and stuff like that, where you would be trying to outscore the opposition. That's a real tough place to be, and not a great formula. So yeah, we really need to ship up on that and sort that out and stuff like that and all. But really, just 1 second there. We're open at 10:30. There we go. So people at the door already, you know. But yeah, it's really important that we go through this period and stuff like that, and try and figure out what's going on and stuff like that. But today, the key thing today in this Brentford game is, this is a vital game. We really need to put 3 points on the board. We really need to try and stay within that distance of Arsenal and stuff like that and all. So important. And also try and put a little pressure in there as well, you know what I mean? Between ourselves, Man City and Chelsea, we need to try and apply a little bit of pressure to Arsenal. Arsenal at the moment are absolutely humming. They look amazing. You've seen them, that second half against Atletico Madrid is as good a half as you'll see teams play. But they're humming in every area, you know what I mean? Their midfield looks really well. They're starting to do bits up front. You know, their defence is rock solid. You know, so I think a bit of pressure needs to be applied there. So we need to win our games and ask the questions. And today is a perfect chance for that, because we're playing first. Arsenal aren't playing till tomorrow against Crystal Palace, who are a tough side to play against and stuff like that, as we've seen. And there's no doubt, obviously, Crystal Palace not in a great vein of form coming into that game tomorrow. But they'll raise their game at the Emirates against Arsenal, as all those London clubs always do. There is no easy London derbies. Although if you're a West Ham fan, you might have a different view on that. But the main thing is to go out there tonight, put on a performance, and kind of like the Frankfurt game, in a controlled kind of manner. You know, that real controlled kind of manner that we seen, that we needed and stuff like that and all. So important. Because there wasn't, like, even when Frankfurt scored the other night, there wasn't this crazy anxiety about the game that, oh shit, here we go again kind of thing. We got the ball down, we played the ball, we stuck to the game plan. And that's kind of what we did last year when we were grinding out a lot of results and stuff like that, when the ball wasn't really going our way or the match wasn't really going our way. This year it's been crazy. This year, when the match isn't going our way, we just empty the bag out onto the pitch and go for it like crazy, you know what I mean? Rather than sticking to the plan and make subtle little changes and formations and bring players on in a controlled kind of manner to try and create just a little bit more. And that's the real thing for Arne to try and rediscover again. And that's difficult as well. We've had a number of players that didn't have a pre-season. We had a number of players started off the season injured. We've a number of new players who have come in and stuff like that. So there's a lot going on to get across that message of that kind of patient, controlled football. We've seen it with Curtis Jones the other night. He was absolutely sublime, and you know, at times Curtis Jones doesn't get the praise that he deserves, but fundamentally, and you can hear his interview after the game and all, how he sees the game and how fundamental he sees it, how to be in control, to hold possession of the ball, to not be wasteful in possession, all that kind of stuff, but also to be continuously moving forward and be on the positive, on the front foot and stuff like that. And it's great to hear that from the boy as well, you know, because he's been vilified at times and stuff like that. And even my own assessment of Curtis at times, you know, we've gone from season to season to season going, right, this is the season he needs to show us, otherwise what's the point? You know, we've seen Curtis maturing into a really good footballer, who probably is deserving of more game time and stuff like that. But it'll be interesting tonight to see what lineup he goes with. Does he make the changes? Does Robbo hold his position? If he does, is he still capable of putting in two hard matches? Robbo worked intensely hard the other night in that Frankfurt game, even though it was in a control kind of manner, and from 3-1 we were kind of skating it, but still worked hard up and down the wing there. Is he able to go again this evening against Brentford? Is he ready for that, or does Kerkez come back in? I find with Kerkez in there, because he's kind of a bit like, he's a bit chaotic, like the way Darwin plays and stuff like that, it kind of creates an anxiety, because where you can do that up front and it can often reap rewards, I think if you play that kind of way in defence, it gets a bit worrying and stuff like that and all. So does Kerkez come back in? Where does Slot find the balance? Where does he find the balance between trying to play players back in to fit the system, trying to play players back in to find their form, play them back into form, fitness, all that kind of stuff, and the importance of getting the match over the line and, putting the pressure back on Arsenal, getting it back to 1 point. So yeah, this is the starting 11 is going to tell the tale of how he feels and stuff like that. We need to talk about Mo Salah and stuff like that. I think some of the reaction has been absolutely crazy to Mo Salah. I think there's just a cohort of fans out there that are they're just grasping at stuff at the moment to try and hold reasons for why this season hasn't delivered what they thought it might be, which was just go out and blast everyone away and win the league by February, which hasn't really transpired for a number of reasons. But I think if you look at the situation with Mo Salah at the moment, and it's a difficult one as well, because we love Mo Salah, and what Mo Salah has done for this club practically over the last decade is immeasurable. He's been absolutely fantastic, but I think there's an adjustment going on at the moment. And I think it's an adjustment that he's finding very difficult to deal with. Not least the loss of one of his good friends, Diogo Jota, massive loss to the club and to all us as fans, but essentially in there in that tight-knit group. And we often talk about Liverpool being a team that plays within a system. And if any part of that system's missing, it's like a jigsaw that you can't complete if a piece isn't fitting. And I think Liverpool very much plays that way. So when we are missing players, there's a disjointment in there. It doesn't look right, and it's difficult at the moment because, one, we've been trying to play a new system, and two, we've got so many new players in. And Slot obviously feels a pressure there to play these new players and stuff like that. It's not easy to sit like 80 million, 120 million, 115 million, whatever it is, players, 40 million on the bench. And that's the conundrum. The conundrum for us now is, because we have choices, because we've signed players, some of the players that are in there that were absolutely first names on the sheet, the likes of Robbo, now has an adjustment there to understand that he's now part of a squad and will be utilised and used when needed in the proper way. And I think he's adjusted to it brilliantly as well. I think with Robbo, he's just a fantastic pro. But if you look at Mo Salah, there's a level of frustration there. And like they talk about the game the other night where he didn't square the ball to Verts for a tap in and stuff like that. And I absolutely get that. But if Mo Salah puts that ball in the bottom corner, no one's talking about squaring the ball to Verts. The problem at the moment is, in the decision making, he's not scoring the goals or he's not creating the assists. And that's where the real problem is. And where that becomes a frustration, if you remember our three guys up front and all. Look at how frustrated for the last 18 months or so Sadio Mane got with him. It got really, really frustrating to the point where Sadio, just decided, I may as well get out of town here, And you could see the frustration, and we could see that there was issues between the two guys. There was like a power struggle there, like who is the guy and stuff like that. And obviously Mo won out and stuff like that. Sadio headed off to Bayern. The rest is history. With Bobby, it was slightly different as well, because there was an appreciation for Bobby from Mo as well. Because if you look at a lot of Mo Salah's success down through the years, a lot of that can be put on Bobby Firmino as well. Bobby Firmino was just an exemplary, unbelievable footballer and professional who had such joy in playing players in, who got as big a smile out of an assist or a pre-assist as he did out of a goal. And he was just one of the most unselfish forward players that I've ever seen. He was so happy to play players in and get them to score and stuff like that. And a lot of Mo Salah's success is in that area where him and Bobby Firmino were just electric at times. And I think there's a difficulty there as well, is because you have Mo Salah, who's been there for years, he's part of the senior player group and stuff like that and all. It puts the likes of a Florian Wirtz or an Alexander Isak or an Ekitike in a very difficult position, because it's not like they're going to come out and go, why the fuck aren't you squaring the ball to me, boom, boom, boom. They're not going to call out Mo Salah. You know what I mean? But I think it's just, that will go for a while, and then it will become a frustration, and then it boils over and it becomes a problem. Now, again, is it just Mo Salah is just so tunnel driven in terms of being a goal scorer. But we have changed things, and the reason we changed things is we didn't want to go into another season where the reliance on Mo Salah was at such a level. If you look at last season, I mean, he was the guy. It was Mo Salah FC, really, in terms of winning that league and stuff like that. And, he sees himself as being that guy. So when he sat on the bench, it doesn't sit well with him. But, is he looking at his form at the moment in a different way to everyone else is looking at it? Is he looking at his drop-off in form being, well, we've a changed team and new players and it's a different formation and blah, 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 blah? And is that what the cut-off is? Or is it truly the fact when he gets into goal-scoring situations at the moment, he's just not taking his chances? And that can be for a number of reasons. So that's a kind of a conundrum that needs to be sorted out. And we seen it the other night against Frankfurt where he takes off the training top and fires it into the dugout. Not good. We've seen the petulance with Klopp there at the West Ham game the season before. And we've also seen, the talk where he didn't clap the fans when he did clap the fans, but he's in a very frustrated mode at the moment. And maybe he's questioning. Maybe he's looking and questioning now because maybe they didn't perceive that the window that we had was the window we were going to have. And maybe he's questioning, maybe should he have re-signed? I don't know. Maybe his head's in a different space. Maybe he's dealing with a lot of stuff at the moment. But he's going to have to fix up real quick. And I think going onto social media and deleting all your Liverpool stuff, like we seen this with Darwin last year and all, it's childish and it's petulant and it's a lack of, for a senior player at the club as part of the senior leadership group, it lacks a level of intelligence of reading the room. And a lot of that can be frustration. Maybe he's come to the realisation that his career is maybe winding down slightly because he's getting to that age now. But it can be a number of factors. And I think the onus is now on Arne Slot to, hit that head on and fix that and show the real managerial and coaching side of Arne Slot that we didn't necessarily have to see last year because the 11 nearly picked the 11 and, from January and all, there was pressure there to win the league, obviously, when we got into those positions. But from January on, we were really coasting. So this is where we see the real strength or weakness or the dynamic of Arne Slot as a manager and a coach. Can he hit those things head on? So that's like, as I said, I much prefer talking about our team than to talk about the opposition, but it is a preview. So let's talk about Brentford. In regards to Brentford, I think what Keith Andrews has done has been absolutely phenomenal. I tipped them to be in real trouble this year, and I think they're going to be fine. I think we didn't realise how good Keith Andrews was, mainly as a coach and mainly as tactically setting up his side and stuff like that and all. And this is a team that lost some real key players in the summer. And they've kind of come back in a way that we didn't expect. And they play really, really good football. And you've seen it in the Chelsea game. When they drew with Chelsea, even with 3 or 4 minutes of injury time to go, Keith Andrews was willing his players forward to go seek a winner. And I love to see that. I love to see that on the sideline from a coach and from a manager, that you're not satisfied regardless of who the opposition is. Doesn't matter whether you're playing Burnley or you're playing Real Madrid. That desire to win, that desire to come back into a game and do what they did, shows what they're about. And listen, going to the G-Tech, it's not a great place for us to go. You seen last year, 2 injury time goals from Darwin Núñez got us out of trouble. And we know how good they are. You know what I mean? And we've got 2 ex-players in there, Quavian Keller and Nets, who will want to keep a clean sheet. We know we've got Jordan Henderson in midfield there as well. We know how excellent Jordan has been. We know as he's got older now, he's seeking that eye for a pass. And it's electric. And some of the passes he's made this season have been phenomenal. The boy Thiago has been absolutely brilliant. Shada, Damsgaard, to name a few. Lewis Potter. They've got so many good players in there. And a rock solid. That back line is a physical back line in there with Collins, Van der Berg, Pinnock and all. So this is going to be a really difficult game. And this is going to be a game where we'll have to go out with the right attitude, with the right level of work rate. This is a game that really calls on a Dom and a McAllister or a Curtis Jones or whatever the setup is going to be, to really go out there and get stuck into that midfield, to win that battle there, to progress it forward. And it'll be interesting to see who he goes up front. We've seen Chiesa just after winning Standard Chartered Player of the Month and stuff like that. And I'm indifferent in how I feel about that, and I don't want to be going in on Federico at all. Everyone knows how I felt about that. I didn't feel it was a signing. I felt it was just, let's go out and buy a name to shut people up kind of thing. But he's somewhat proved me wrong. He's come in at times this season and he's looked really, really good. But I also think as well, and I don't want to throw shit at my own players either, I think for Federico Chiesa, with the number of minutes he played in September, to be the Standard Chartered Player of the Month, it's kind of a sad indictment on the rest of the players, really, especially the forward players, because he's only been a bit part player, and yeah, he scoops the prize. So that should be a message and an indication to our forward players to, fix up and lift the level of your game. Now, he brings a great energy, Federico Chiesa, and he has a real good eye for a pass as well, and he's tenacious as well, and he's everything that you would want. But that's a big question tonight now. Does Federico Chiesa start tonight? Does Mo Salah go back into the team? Do they risk Isaac with the groinal issue? Or go with Ekitike? Florian Wirtz, does he continue? Lots of questions. So this lineup will answer us tonight. And don't forget tonight, folks, we are doing a watch-along. So join us from 7:15, where we will be going through the lineup and we will be expressing our views on what we think. If I went for a prediction, I think this is going to be a tight game. This is going to be a 2-1 or a 3-2, hopefully to Liverpool. But can we continue that form and work rate and controlled manner of playing that we expressed against Frankfurt? Can we bring that back to the Premier League now, starting at the GTEC Stadium tonight at 8 o'clock against Brentford? Or will it be more of the same now that we're back in the cauldron and the pressure cooker and the microscopic analysis of the Premier League as opposed to the Champions League? We got great plaudits on Wednesday night for how we played. We still shipped a goal, and it was a real good team goal from Frankfurt as well. But we did scoop the plaudits. We've seen Florian Wirtz get his 2 assists now, so he's off and running in terms of that. We do expect a lot more. We've seen how good Ekitike is, Cody Gakpo. We've seen all these players and how good they can be. But we will see tonight. And Keith Andrews will have these guys prepared. Make no mistake about it. And if we go in there with the slightest doubts in our mind, if we go in there expressing an issue with our confidence, Brentford will be there to monopolise on that and jump on that. So it's really, really important from our point of view, we go out on that pitch with the right attitude and we understand what's on the line. Because a loss tonight and a win for Arsenal tomorrow, and it's October, and we'll be in the top 4 race. And that's what's on the line there, make no mistake about it. Reds, like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification button, especially if you're going to join us tonight for the watch-along. Crack open a beer, whatever you want to do. We'll have a nice Saturday evening in, 8 till 10. The Brentford watch-along. Make sure you're subscribing to the channel. Have we fixed up? Has Arna found the formula? What is the line that people pick? And let us know your predictions in the comments. A massive game tonight for the Reds at the GTEC Stadium, 8 o'clock. Catch you then.